to guide from the bottomless pit, but my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation, triumphantly. Won't you help to sing another song of freedom? Is all I ever have. Redemption songs. Redemption songs.
Ever since man first set sail to explore foreign lands and waters, there have been pirates and buccaneers stalking the seas, waiting to pounce on their unsuspecting prey. Documented tales of piracy on the high seas go as far back as the Greek classics. Sea rovers are found in Homer's Odyssey, and it is said that Julius Caesar was kidnapped by Corsican pirates on his way to Rhodes in 78 BC. In 67 BC, piracy in the Mediterranean ran so rampant, the empire sent 270 ships out to sea to do the scoundrels in. Under the leadership of Pompey, the Roman fleet killed 10,000 pirates and took another 20,000 prisoners, while destroying close to 1,000 of their ships. Between this assault and the Roman Empire's eventual decline, piracy in the Mediterranean all but disappeared, and it remained in its diminished state until the 16th century, history's golden age of piracy. Perhaps the greatest era of piracy in the high seas came during the final years of the 17th and the beginning of the 18th centuries. Desperate economic and political times forced literally thousands of men, most of them British, Dutch, and French, to take to the sea. From the coasts of North and South America and Africa to the sleepy lagoons of the Caribbean and reaching as far away as Madagascar, pirates ruled the high seas. This age of unparalleled pirate activity that lasted a mere 30 years or so has a special place in history and our hearts. It has become known as the Golden Age of piracy. The first documentation of piracy's golden age came from the pen of one Captain Charles Johnson. His book, A General History of the Robberies and Murders of the Most Notorious Pirates, was a bestseller in London when it was published in 1724. In reality, Captain Charles Johnson was none other than Daniel Defoe, the respected author who wrote Robinson Crusoe. Perhaps it's the writings of Defoe that first romanticized the life of piracy on the high seas. Ultimately, Defoe wrote a total of 9 books elaborating on the exploits of the seagoing robbers. Largely fictitious, Defoe's volumes contain tales of Captain Kidd, slowly going mad in his cabin, of Blackbeard's final voyage, and of Captain Bartholomew Roberts, known by his more colorful nickname of Black Bart, the last great pirate. And thanks to Defoe's books, these are the legends of the high seas that still live on today. Piracy has been called the world's third oldest profession, right behind prostitution and doctoring. It was the pirates of the Atlantic seaboard that refined their craft to a fine art. The increase of British trade led to a corresponding increase in piracy on British waters. Piracy was so widely proliferated in Britain during the 16th century that the province of Wales was considered a pirate outpost. In fact, the pirates of the North Atlantic were so well organized, they created syndicates, which were controlled by noblemen like Sir Richard Greenville, the Earl of Pembroke, and Sir John Killigrew, who was known as the President of the Commissioners for Piracy. On occasion, the pirates offered their services to nations who were at war, for a price, of course. These privately hired crews cruised the seas and waited for the enemy ships to appear. Then, they'd attack the unsuspecting victims and make off with the spoils of their raid. In fact, so effective were the pirates at keeping the enemy at bay that many of them were actually licensed by their governments to conduct their acts of piracy. This is where we get the term privateers, which refers to privately owned ships commissioned by the government to practice their craft.
On a hot afternoon in September 1668, a fleet of 9 ships sailed home to harbour in the Caribbean. There was wild celebrating on board, for these brethren of the coast, as they called themselves, were returning from a smash-and-grab raid on the Spanish town of Portobello in Central America. They had stolen a staggering 25,000 pieces of 8. That's the Spanish dollar minted in pure silver. It was worth about £10 million at today's prices. Leading the so-called Brethren was Henry Morgan, a ferocious, hard-drinking Welshman from Monmouthshire who made his living by theft and violence. Men like Morgan were the founding fathers of the British Empire, for it began not in trying to rule other countries, but in robbing them. But this was piracy with a twist. It even had a different, more respectable name: privateering. It worked like this. The government licensed merchant ships to attack and rob the country's enemies, and in exchange, the government got a share of the stolen goods. This was empire building on the cheap. The freelancers took the risk, the government took the money. The pirates' victims were Spanish ships. These were laden with gold from their colonies in the Americas. Morgan's base was a place that had recently been seized from the Spanish. The island of Jamaica. The British set up a new capital here, Port Royal in the south of the island. With its vast number of taverns, brothels and rowdiness, it quickly earned the name the Sodom of the New World. Then all that came to a sudden end. Peace was declared between Britain and Spain. But Jamaica stayed in British hands. Henry Morgan saw the way things were going and decided to diversify. He hung up his cutlass and bought 4,000 acres of land on which he built a second fortune. The empire had been conceived in robbery, but it grew fat on the cultivation of sugar. Theft was the past, trade was the future. The British at home had developed a lust for sugar to sweeten the novelties arriving from the tropics: coffee, chocolate, and tea. The British were already becoming a nation of sugar addicts. Sugar from Jamaican plantations could satisfy their sweet tooth. But the island's population was tiny, and the plantations needed vast amounts of labour. The answer to the problem lay in the traffic of human beings from Africa, the slave trade. The British didn't introduce slavery to the Caribbean, but they took to it with enthusiasm. Traders bought slaves in Africa and then shipped them thousands of miles across the world. Many died in the packed, filthy, airless cargo decks. Sugar was a back-breaking crop to harvest. The cane had to be cut down and then stripped of its foliage and then transported to the mill, often in intense, blazing heat. The plantations devoured slaves. Within 3 years of their arriving here, a third of them would be dead. By 1775, 1.5 million men, women and children had been forcibly transported from Africa to the British West Indies. Their descendants now people these islands. Treating human beings as beasts of burden made the owners of sugar plantations rich. This is the planter's house on the Good Hope estate, built in 1755. Its owner was 23 when he bought it. He became the wealthiest man in Jamaica, owning over 10,000 acres of land and 3,000 slaves. The sugar planters, known as the plantocracy, enjoyed enormous power. Each estate was its own little tyranny. And since slaves enjoyed no rights, the planters were free to behave as dictators. One was Thomas Thistlewood. He'd been a farm worker in England. Slavery turned him into a man of means. He fancied himself a man of letters too, and kept a diary. Even though we all think we're familiar with the routine horrors of the slave trade, when you read what some of these slave owners did, it really does make your stomach heave. Here are 3 accounts of punishments meted out by Thistlewood in 3 months in 1756. Darby catched eating canes, had him well flogged and pickled, then made Hector shit in his mouth. Rubbed Hazat with molasses and exposed him naked to the flies all day and to the mosquitoes all night. Flogged Punch well, and then washed and rubbed in salt pickle, lime juice and bird pepper. Made Negro Joe piss in his eyes and mouth. Thistlewood kept a tally of what was known as nutmegging, the rape of female slaves, something he did by his own reckoning on 3,852 occasions. He would allow his guests to do the same. When these slave owners went to church on a Sunday, they doubtless did so believing they were good Christian folk. They behaved as they did because they didn't regard their slaves as fellow human beings, but as their property to do with as they pleased.
Yes, man, we're there. Your 21st century educator. What do you think of this matter, people? One time gone, they was called pirates. They ruled the seas with their piracy. Then, Her Majesty's government legalized it. The robbing and taking captives, plundering and pillaging, murdering, raping, lying, thieving, set of inglorious bastards. That was their beginnings, so they say. So the story go. But one time they were called pirates, then they call him privateer, cause he has the Queen's blessings and the government has legalized him. Now, in the 21st century, we have a new name for him. Same thing, same actions, same activities, same captain, same crew, same ship. But the new name for it is Captains of Industry. They're on an industrial trip. Yeah. Stay tuned for the part 2. Lesson in economics and captainship.
So how does this work exactly? If you'd like to be a pirate, you need to understand it is a business. You can't have a crew or a ship or a brand without a business model to support them. But pirate business is like any other. Make a product or provide a service to your customers in exchange for money, then spend that money on equipment and personnel to make more product for more customers for more money. The difference with Piracy Incorporated is our customers don't wish to be serviced. No matter, with the correct spending on equipment and personnel, the business will service them regardless. Do you have to? My boy, if we don't service our customers, someone else will, and the reward for our abstemiousness will be poverty. In our societal and technological environment, an economic niche exists, and this incorporation of pirates fills its shape as whiskey fills a barrel. Such is life, the motions we choose but the sum of forces upon us. I became a pirate as the gold in this grail chose its form. The both of us now cogs of this machine that profits on the high seas or perishes. Okay. Profit is income minus expenses, and for a pirate company, income means seizing the biggest booty. Seizing the biggest treasure, while provoking the least cost-inducing resistance. The captain is more than happy to explain how we accomplish that through branding. Branding built on the foundation of a solid business, mind you. Brands are memorable and battles flashy, but they don't happen without contracts and spreadsheets. Thus, before we set sail, there will be a contract for the voyage. Though we choose not to live under the Empire's law, we still have rules of our own, to which all men have input and to which all men must agree before setting sail. The contract sets the voting methods, codes of conduct, punishments for violating those codes, distribution of pay, workmen's compensation, etc. Each pirate enterprise is a bit different, but in general it works thusly. There are two elected offices, the captain and the quartermaster. The captain is not our boss, but serves at the pleasure of the crew. If they are unhappy with his strategic decisions, the crew can replace him at any time by a majority vote. There is no term length, with one exception. Battle is no time for democracy. Amidst pandemonium, the decider must be free to decide, but this is the only time the captain cannot be removed. And though our branding may give you the impression the captain is in charge of all things, the quartermaster keeps the ship running, overseeing the men, their quarters, their rations, their agreed upon privileges, and punishments executed for contract violations. Everything needed to keep the ship effective and profitable. Quartermaster, battlemaster, crew. Now, at the dawn of this new century, a lot of men are qualified to be crew, which means the cost of their labor is low. So you're not going to pay me much? You misunderstand. That you are here tells me you are not interested in traditional employment, working 9 to 5 on a ship of the Empire for minimum wage, staying out of trouble and saving for retirement as banal days pass, eroding the dreams and aspirations of your younger self, leaving you at the end to wonder how it all slipped away. No, your personality matrix, shaped entirely by your genetics and your environment, tend you to engage in risk-taking. What's genetics? Doesn't matter. Given your situation, you find being an outlaw with the possibility of great riches under the threat of the Empire's noose a risk worth considering, if the riches are large enough, which they are. As a crewman on a pirate ship, you are not paid in wages, but with 1 share of the profit, same as every crewman. The captain gets 2 shares for the strategic decisions he makes, the quartermaster 1 1/2 for his labors, the surgeon 1 1/4, same for the carpenter. Though we do often have difficulty finding surgeons with the right personality matrix, so if there is no surgeon, the carpenter will be surgeon. Shocking, I know. Such flat and equal compensation is not what you'll find on Empire and merchant ships, where captains and officers are compensated richly and get special quarters and privileges over the crew. On a pirate ship, we are all equals achieving a common goal. Wow, what great guys pirates are! Such camaraderie! No, this is not because we are better and the Empire worse, but again, economic inevitability. Empire and merchant ships are not owned by the men who sail them, but by monarchs or investors who hire captains and officers to run them. To ensure loyalty to the owners above crew, the captain is not only paid much more, but has a share in the ship's profits, which the men do not, and may be granted titles and land upon his successful return. Meanwhile, the crew, hired from the mass of men with lives of quiet desperation and personality matrices constraining them inside the law, have only the low price of their undifferentiated labor to offer. And being inside the law, their captains can threaten them with corporal punishment on board, with prison or treason off board, backed by the Empire and her resources to track down traitors and deserters. But for us pirates, captain's orders are but the words of one man. Outside the law, a majority can take control at any time by force. It is only our contract that eases this transition. And at every port, if a man trust not the contract or the crew, he can just leave. There is no pirate empire to track him down. We have a ship and a business only by our cooperation and only if we can keep it. But the incentive is great. We are not here to sell our labor to distant and disinterested owners, but to taste the fruit of our labors directly, to make money. A lot of money for all of us. The only thing standing in our way, aside from our customers occasionally, is the subtractor of costs. If it grows too large, the business will inevitably dissolve, and we won't get paid. These costs come in mostly 2 forms: ship repairs and people repairs. For the ship, the rules of supply and demand work against us. We can't sail into a port of the Empire seeking repairs without raising questions. So we must only visit pirate-friendly ports with pirate-friendly dock workers, mostly far away in the New World, which raises repair costs considerably. For pirates, each broken mast or cannon hole is more costly than for the Empire. So, for business reasons, we prefer not to fight. Also, fighting incurs personnel costs, since we know that some crew will be injured in battle, permanently, and it's just a roll of the cosmic dice as to who and to what. The contract we decide on lists generous compensation for lost legs, arms, hands, eyes. Thus, after the treasure is seized, the injured are compensated, the ship is repaired, supplies replenished, the remainder is profit, the glorious profit. And your 1 share, after 1 successful voyage with us, will be worth years of labor with the Empire. So, are you compelled to join? I'd like to hear from the captain. Hello! So you want to be a pirate, my lad? Well, let me tell ye, being a pirate be all about branding. Yar, it's a business, but branding be bringing in the booty, and if ye be shipping with our jolly crew, ye need love this Jolly Roger. Question, isn't waving a pirate flag like waving a "We Are Thieves" flag? It seems not helpful. This skull and crossbones be more than just a bit of "arg, look at us." It's plumage prerequisite for plundering. As pirates, we be wanting booty. Booty be licious. But parties protect their booty, preferring it unplundered. So we must plunder asunder, which 'tis a lot of work and risk. Who needs that? See, we want free booty. When we ask for booty, booty to be granted and bounce. But why would a ship just give up? The branding! Plus a surprise reveal. You were right, we don't fly the flag for fun, we fly false flags, keeping the Roger hidden for just the right moment. Our ship be lean and mean, and we hide this too. With prey in sight, we billow barrels behind, so though our sails be full, our speed be slow, and we seem fat and full, with supplies kept above deck for greater effect. Okay, that's pretty clever. But this be my favorite, a camouflaged hull, painted canvas unfurled to cover the true number of guns. Behold! That looks pretty fake. Yar, it need only look good from afar. The ships be seen at a distance through a looking glass on the high seas. Branding is image, not reality. And Empire and merchants do the reverse, carving and painting fake cannon to intimidate. But fake guns don't shoot, now do they? So, we be sailing slowly along, all how do you do, fellow countrymen? Then, when close enough, the reveal. Cutting our cover, unfurling the flag, ditching the drag, and sullying pantaloons. That's branding. Do it right, and they won't fight. Why, again? I feel like you're not answering this question. Look, think like one of those poor seaman sods yonder. Imagine ye be working for the Empire, minding yourself, when, surprise, pirates, please present your booty. This guy's the worst. Your captain can choose to fight or not, but if ye fight and if ye lose, we will torture crewmen to death while others watch. Oh, that's not jolly. That's not jolly at all. Look, sometimes misguided men will try to hide booty, and we can't have that. We don't want to torture, understand? I scorn to do anyone a mischief when it not for my advantage. But brands must mean something, and torturing over hidden treasure is quite memorable, which generates effective word-of-mouth marketing. At least from those who have told us the truth about hidden treasure and thus get to keep their tongues. Ah, so be the sailor's choice. Fight, lose, maybe torture for you, maybe death for you, pirates get booty anyway. What a hassle for nothing, and we make it so easy to give up. If your captain simply surrenders, we leave everyone alone. No fighting, no torture, just a transference of booty between ships passing on the high seas. On the other hand, you could fight, and you might win, though maybe as less of a man than before, but lose, and you might beg for mercy in the last and longest moments of your life. Boop. The flag we raise lets ye know your options before loading that cannon. And we have one more surrender incentive. Say the target captain calls his men to fight to protect his booty. That captain is a fool, and probably cruel, treating his men like mule, feeding them gruel while admiring a jewel, the whole crew sick of his rule. When they see our flag and the captain's command, the crew can mutiny, letting us aboard without resistance, and as thanks for their assistance, we be holding a court of the captain where his crew can complain. Knowing this chance corrodes a captain's confidence in command, given the crew's critique of his conduct could conclude his career. It's hilarious. Though the Empire calls us outlaws, we also be angels of vengeance on the high seas. What branding, terror, and mercy and justice combined. It's beautiful. So, that's the pirate's life. Sure, the Empire's noose will dangle over your head, but you'll have brothers in arms and booty in hand. What say ye? I'd like to talk to that guy before I decide.
Atlantic One, this loving aircraft is super good.
Way before, long before, way before pirates came, before pirates came, there was love and amity amongst each other. Brothers and sisters always help and care for one another. Before pirates came, pirates came. That boy, I and I always tread with the king of creation. There was no need for Babylon ways or their meditation. First university, oh yeah, way up in a Timbuktu. First doctor and engineers, the man them call him a tip. I miss a way up in a Egypt, the world first scientist. Their modern improvements are but the duplicate of a grander civilization that I and I reflected thousands of years ago in creation, before old pirates came, before old pirates came. Hey. Long before our pirates came, before our pirates came. Ah yes, ah yeah, I and I, the cradle of civilization. I and I teachers and enlightening of the nation. Long before Plato, oh yeah, long before Aristotle, long before Pythagoras, I and I the original Rossi. I and I carved the weak in civilization. So down to this week, we know about our nation. Before our pirates came, before our pirates came, Stamoy, Stamoy, Stamoy.